a lot of fond memories when it comes to Disney. Some of my favorite films are Inside Out, and it's just portrayal of human emotions. There's Soul, which is a film that just really helps put the spirit back into you when it comes to living your best life. There's even some of Disney's owned franchises like Marvel, such as Infinity War, very surprising turn of events for that film, and Endgame, of course, was a great, satisfying conclusion for a long-running series of films. But those are rather the exceptions as of late compared to the rule, which is that Disney has become stagnant with its release of films and all kinds of content in general, whether it's Walt Disney Animation, Disney Channel, Disney Plus, Marvel, Star Wars, doesn't matter. Overall, it's just become stagnant. And some of the biggest reasons why this is the case tends to be through its constant sequels and remakes, its retreading of past films' plot lines, and its constant moment chasing to get people in seats. First off, we have their sequels and remakes that they crank out 24/7. Walt Disney Company has pumped out 9 live-action remakes since the release of Maleficent in 2014, and this is including Maleficent. These movies are Maleficent, Cinderella, The Jungle Book, The Lion King, Aladdin, Mulan, The Lady and the Tramp, and several others. But the point I'm getting at is that most of those have been within the last 6 or so years, and there's been 9 of them. 4 of which were released in the same year. None have been as critically well received as their original counterparts, and they easily outnumber original creations that Disney has made as of late, no matter which branch of Disney you look at, whether it's Walt Disney Animation or Pixar. And all their theatrical releases have been box office hits. The Lion King remake in particular being one of the highest grossing films of all time. So why? Why is it that films that are just remakes of past films that don't have a ton of new creative input put into them so successful? And, well, it just has to do with my point 3, which I'll get to later. But for now, what's important to know is that most of their content as of late has been sequels and remakes. And seeing the same thing over and over again that you've already seen, or the same characters or that type of thing, is really it adds to the stagnant state of Disney as of late. Mainly this part comes from remakes, however. Sequels, there's another part of it entirely. But it's not just Disney either. Pixar's weakest outings have been with their sequels in the past, which they started the trend of with Monsters University, and from then on just continued making sequels from there. But as far as sequels go, when it comes to Disney or Pixar or that kind of thing, they tend to have a problem of retreading. And when I say retreading, that means retreading plot lines, characters, that kind of thing. And when they're not doing that, they tend to almost always do plot lines that have already been done to death before. One example I can think of is in the film Frozen 2. One plot line that almost always seems to happen in sequels, it seems, is the main couple. In the main couple, one of them struggles to propose or ask out the other one in several different goofy ways as some sort of side plot. It happens in so many films, and Frozen 2 was a 2019 film, I believe, that did the exact same thing, and that is just another example of retreading. Incredibles 2, however, as of late, is probably the biggest offender. So many plot lines are retread throughout that film, whether it's one of the adult family members going off on their own mission to get back into the swing of things hero-wise, and the families coming together at the end to stop the one evil. The fact that it's a twist villain at all that they previously thought were not necessarily evil, and so on and so on. Toy Story 4 is another example. A lot of constant reminders of past events and such. But overall, the sequels aren't as big of offenders as the remakes. But even then, the sequels do have another problem that the remakes also share. That's what the biggest reason why Disney has felt stagnant as of late, and that is the moment chasing. Disney has become guilty of this. Moment chasing is when a part of in this case, is when a part of a film relies on your prior knowledge of past works. So, for example, moment chasing would be when the song in The Lion King, Be Prepared, happens, and then we get to the scene where, spoiler alert, where Mufasa dies. Same kind of thing. And then from there we go to Hakuna Matata. That's moment chasing. But what it gets ignored is everything in between. And most of that stuff in the remakes and such do get changed slightly, but you never hear people talk about that in between because they're so focused on hopping from key event to key event to key event from past films, from what they remember, that it leads to everything in between feeling stale because what's been added there just doesn't compare to the past things. Original films don't have this problem because they have to have a cohesive narrative from start to finish. So when they do that, they don't have time for moment chasing. And so they can't be guilty of this, and that's why it's such a problem that Disney makes sequels and remakes nonstop. If they made original works, they wouldn't be feeling stagnant. But because they do, they fall into a lot of these traps. But in general, when it comes to moment chasing, I can't think of really any recent sequels or remakes from Disney that don't do this. As far as sequels go, Incredibles 2, another big offender of moment chasing. There's any live action remake, of course, is always going to be guilty of moment chasing. As far as sequels go, Monsters University is another one I can think of. The inclusion of Randall, not a necessary character at all, but because he was in the first film and people liked him, he pretty much had to be there. And whenever you see him, that's an example of moment chasing that's just not really necessary. The biggest offender that Disney owns that is guilty of moment chasing, of course, is Star Wars. Star Wars, I haven't seen the original films, but from what I gather, used to have like actual narratives to them for the most part. Like the emphasis wasn't on the big events. The big events were rather integral to the narratives. But now it kind of feels like the big events, like the lightsaber fights or that kind of thing, have kind of become the key part of Star Wars as of late. And now it's kind of turned into more of a spectacle rather than a film series that it used to be. So in conclusion, Disney has seemed to become stagnant because they've committed themselves to moment chasing, which of course is most common in sequels and remakes. And of course they can easily do this by cashing in on nostalgia, which they can easily do with sequels and remakes, which leads to a lot of retreading, which leads to tons of moment chasing, and in conclusion leads to Disney becoming stagnant. Thank you.